Janet and I are going to be sharing a mic because we have a full studio. Dr. Mike Anderson has shown up with Trey Watkins. We're going to have Angie Dixon in here in just a little bit to talk about Hoops Don't Shoot. But in the meantime, Mike, let's talk a little bit about this flyer you handed out to me. But first, before we do anything, we have to do a VMI PSA for Trey.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity.
You're losing your mind up in here.
Yes. I just wanted to take a few seconds to acknowledge the greatest school in the history of this country, Virginia Military Institute. We are still currently under an investigation, and it seems like a lot of these allegations are continuing to ramp up despite evidence that show that these allegations should not be upheld. There will be a conclusion that's reached soon, but I'm just here to say that I do not agree with the likely conclusions of what their allegations are going to be. And please continue to support our school. Virginia Military Institute does an incredible job of sending leaders into our military and into our private sector. Memorial Day weekend, so we want to honor our veterans and think about all the folks that have really made the ultimate sacrifice to defend our country and support our freedoms, support our troops, support our military institutions, support VMI. We got to keep this thing going. So
what do you think is the best way for our listeners to show their support for VMI?
Reach out to an alum. Ask them, how they feel about what's going on. We want the truth to be
absolutely
the truth to be discovered, and that's what bothers me about the investigation, because it's a manufactured truth. It's not. It's something that it's very political. We're being targeted. A lot of this has to do with Governor Northam. And a lot of the Democrats having leverage over him and saying, hey, you must push this. And he's a VMI alum, and we all know what happened to him a few years ago. And so it's like, just reach out, listen to
but he got a pass.
Oh, of course. I mean, he despite
right.
People calling for him to step down, refuse to do it. No different than Governor Cuomo in New York. I mean, it's definitely a double standard. But
all we can do, especially with Memorial Day coming up now, is the time to remember how many of our heroes got their start at VMI and how they are kind of being targeted by the cancel culture. We do need to offer our support there. So we are moving on to another topic of interest that I think this. I'm excited about this. This is a good. Topic that we're going to be talking about today. We've got a flyer here from the Boys and Girls Club and the Jubilee Family Development Center. They're joining you in this endeavor. Tell us a little bit about this outreach for males 14 to 21. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely. This was a study done for my doctoral work to understand male emotions. And since we're talking about, some of the crime that's going on, the study found that if young men can regulate their emotions by understanding neuropsychology, understanding what's going on emotionally and how anxiety is actually working through trauma and poverty, it helps them to regulate their emotions. And emotion regulation is what decreases crime, being able to regulate and talk about things rather than use violence. And so I wanted to just help the public be more aware that mental health awareness, we just finished Mental Health Awareness Month, that's one solution.
Well, and also keeping in mind that whether they're male or female, a child that age, they're not fully mature mentally until they're 25 years old. They they need mentors in their life reminding them that everything you do is going to impact you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15, how is this going to impact you now? And it's impossible for kids that age to really realize the repercussions of what they're doing. And if they don't have a solid, secure group of people around them, they don't realize the things that they're doing and how dangerous it is.
Absolutely. Anderson Counseling Service and Grow a Future wants to be a continual part of the solution for our folks here around the Commonwealth.
And what you're saying is very much true, but the part of the trauma and understanding that mental health component of it, like Mike was saying, that emotional regulation, it's almost biological at that point, and because what we're seeing in a lot of the inner city communities and urban areas, there's so much trauma that happens on a daily basis to the point where as a young child, you become numb to it, to the point where you don't even understand that you're being traumatized in a lot of these situations.
Because that's your normal. Because
that's the normal. And so until you get an awareness and an understanding of, all the symptoms of having anxiety and understanding when you're shaking and getting those emotional feelings that's rumbling up, what to do with it and what it is and what's going on. It's when we touch on that and make kids aware of that, we're able to really decrease a lot of the violent incidents that happens, because a lot of times our emotions take over our thinking. So even though we may, have that person there that's been telling us, the emotions can take over the thinking, and we just react. Sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
In the studio, we have Dr. Mike Anderson and Trey Watkins. Trey's a regular that shows up here on Thursdays typically. You guys were in here a couple of months ago talking about Grow a Future. Can you give us a little bit of an update how things are moving forward on this? And your target audience, if I'm not mistaken, is 3rd to 5th grade, because that seems to be where we're losing some of these kids.
Well, one of the things that we're doing with Grow a Future is we're addressing the mental health and emotional health of the kids that are coming into the program, as well as Trey has mentioned many times, the literacy problem. Literacy is definitely one of the variables that contributes to poverty. So we're working very hard to increase academic literacy, financial literacy, as well as cultural literacy. And so on the mental health end, we're, again, our work with the counseling centers to focus on regulating emotions and understanding anxiety. It's a psychoeducational approach to help individuals be healthy, emotionally healthy, and psychologically healthy moving forward as they go back to school, starting to go back to school now. So we just want to deliver a kid in that classroom that's healthy and strong and ready to learn.
And also, so what we were talking last time, we've began renovations. We're going ahead and getting started, renovating the Hunt Randolph Community Center on 12th Street. We are, it's taken a little bit longer than we anticipated. COVID has really changed, the timelines of any kind of construction. And so we're playing the patient game. We're taking our time. We want to make sure that we get it right. Part of the problem that we've not only run into, but part of the problem in that building, over its history, has been the inconsistency and the illegitimacy. So we're being very careful and taking our time and making sure that we do everything the correct way, because we want to change the reputation and the culture of that building, but at the same time maintain the rich, programs and the things that we know that come out of that building that work so well, and it has had true impact on the families in that community, in that area. And so we're really excited to really get this thing going and have it be the shining building on 12th Street and really impact the kids and truly drive up hope. Until the pandemic and until we started doing this work, I know for me personally, honestly, I didn't see as much value in hope. I really didn't. Right. But I mean, hope is very much needed today, because
it's hard to see the value of hope when you have it. Because we don't appreciate things that we have. But if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. I mean, and it's heartbreaking to think that these children don't have hope, or they don't. That sometimes when I've talked to some of these children and they look me in the eye and they don't have a future, they don't dare to dream it because they don't have hope.
Right.
That is heartbreaking, and it's no wonder that you are reckless.
That's right.
Because you don't feel like you have anything to protect.
Yeah.
And so it is important to share that. Let me ask you this question, because I think this is one of those things. that is a very delicate balancing act. We did a story earlier this week about the councilman from Atlanta. His name escapes me right now. He's going to be running for mayor of Atlanta, and he was one of the first councilmen to come up and say, we want to defund the police. $73 million. We want that taken away from them. So he was big. Well, he did a press conference this week, and his car was stolen by 4 young people, ages 6 to 12, which I can't even wrap my head around.
Yeah, I read that story.
And one of the things that he said was, it's not their fault. I'm not going to be pressing any charges. Where do you strike the balance between, that they have a background that has put them at a disadvantage? Where do you balance that fine line of, they do need to be, it is a special amount of circumstances, but there has to be consequence for actions. How do you find that balance? If
I may, I actually sit on the Police Commission for Community Policing here in Lynchburg, and work closely as a committee member advising on community policing. And what we've seen over the last few years is police engagement, more police that are on the street engaging the communities is excellent. So rather than defunding, we need to try to get ourselves involved with the police department and any local police department that has community engagement. Try to get there and understand and give advice and help them because we definitely need police. But it's 2 separate issues, Janet. One is helping the kids to understand and be mentally and emotionally healthy and stable and have skills. Hope is one thing, skill is another.
Right.
Interpersonal skill goes a long way. So there's 2 separate issues.
And building character.
Absolutely.
To where you take you own the mistakes that you make, and you try to build. You don't make excuses for them, because we could all do that. It's a difficult job that you have, but one that we are so grateful that you're taking on. When we come back, we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about some new projects that are coming up as the summer moves in. That's when a lot of things are going to be taking place. We'll be back after this break. You're listening to the Morning Jam on the Virginia Talk Radio Network.
Start your mornings on the right foot and listen to the Morning Jam, 6 to 9 a.m. on the Virginia Talk Radio Network.